Hello and welcome to RTI's Advanced Control University. My name is Tyler Nelson, National Product Trainer, and with me today is Chris Pauley, Technical Support Advisor. Today, Chris is going to be speaking about the award-winning Integration Designer and a programming feature that will allow IR and RF to be executed on a single button push. We will discuss what it is, how it works, and how best to utilize it in everyday projects to minimize issues. With that, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Hello, I'm Chris Pauley with RTI's Technical Support Department. Today, we'll be going over one of the more common questions that we receive in tech support, initiating an IR command and an RF trigger command on the same button. This topic is important because with all the different project scenarios possible, even in smaller applications, you may find the need to use direct IR to a device while executing an RF macro simultaneously. It will provide an easy way to control a device, for example, a TV or projector that you're not able to reach with an IR emitter, while having a rack of equipment in another location. As always, please make sure that all your RTI devices have the latest firmware and you have the latest edition of our award-winning Integration Designer software updated. Firmware and software are located on the dealer site via our website, www.rticorp.com. The first step in the process is to verify that the default transport communication method of the RTI device matches that of your RTI receiver module. So a ZM24 would require two-way trigger codes, and a RM433 would need the RF one-way trigger codes. If using 2.4 GHz Zigbee, the two-way transport on your RTI device should be set to Zigbee. To check this, right-click on your RTI device and select the Properties option. Once the Properties window has opened, click the Output tab. Check the default output mode selection and make sure it matches with your receiver. In this case, your XP3 and T2X both communicate via 2.4 GHz Zigbee. We will want two-way trigger codes for control system and Zigbee under two-way options selected. Click OK to close the window. The next step is to create a system macro on the processor. This macro will execute all the commands initiated by the RF trigger directly from the control processor to the end user's devices. First, we will click on the processor icon in the system workspace. Then, click on the System Macros tab and then the button at the top labeled Add a New System Macro. We then name the macro by clicking on the System Macro 1 under Description. In this case, it will be Watch TV. Next, we will build the macro by clicking on the white box directly to the left of Macro Description Name. Once clicked, the macro editor will open and we can begin to create our system macro. For example, today, let's add in some RS-232 commands for a Yamaha receiver. Power on and an input change to DTV/cable. Also, add in IR commands to turn on the direct TV box. When finished building the macro, click OK to save your changes, and this will add your macro to the processor. The third step is to change the actual button property on remote to standalone output mode. This allows the IR to be fired directly from the front of the remote to the end user's device being controlled, as well as run macros on the device itself. To do this, right-click on the T2X icon, select Properties, then the Output tab, and then select Standalone Output Mode. Click OK to exit out of the Device Properties window. We now want to create a macro on the same button. Right-click on the button, in your case the Watch TV button, and select Create Macro. When the macro editor comes up, you will need to add the system macro we created on the XP3 processor and the IR codes that you want sent directly by the RTI remote. Click on the command type and choose System Macro. Drag the desired system macro into the button macro. Next, add IR commands to the button macro. Choose Command from Library. Select the proper IR library and drag the desired IR commands into the standalone button macro. In our example, let's select the Samsung LED 55-inch Series 6000 TV. Scroll down until we find the discrete power on and drag it to the proper location in the macro editor. Since the button is in standalone, any IR commands added to this button macro will be stored on and sent directly by the remote. Click OK and you've just created a button that executes both direct IR and RF trigger commands on a single button push. When our client now pushes Watch TV, the RF trigger code will initiate the system macro to start right away. Immediately after this trigger is sent, the device will send a direct IR code to the TV to power on. The key takeaways from this training video on how to create an IR command and RF trigger macro on a single button push are the steps to the process. Step 1. Verify the default device transport method. Step 2. Create a system macro on the processor. Step 3. Change the button properties on remote to standalone output mode. Step 4. Create a macro on the button of the remote. Step 5. Add IR commands and system macro from the processor to the button macro. Step 6. Save your project.
Thanks, Chris. This type of programming shows how versatile RTI automation devices can be to meet the needs of any client. If you need any additional information on any of the topics we've covered here today, please utilize the following resources: the RTI Integration Zone Forum at forums.rticorp.com. For any technical bulletins and to get on our mailing list, please register on the RTI dealer site. Or for any questions and feedback that you may have regarding this training, please contact us directly at training@rticorp.com. Thank you very much and have a great day.